Shields up, Iron Breakers. Burkan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter Rise, and today I just wanted to reflect on what it's been like to play this game for the last couple of months now that I've reached over 500 hours of playtime. That's right, both of my save files actually add up to somewhere north of 520 hours, which is quite a lot. Even taking into consideration that I had early access to the game and all that, it is still quite a lot of game time for the amount of time that the game has been available to me. And I guess you can say that at this point, I'm not really in the honeymoon period, which you guys know what it's like. You know, you get a new game from a franchise that you really love and everything just feels great and it's super fresh. And you just got your rose-tinted glasses on because, you know, everything is still so fresh and new. And I guess that after 500 hours, you can definitely say, okay, you're definitely not in the honeymoon period anymore. Even though I would have to say that with Monster Hunter Rise, it almost still feels like it, which I guess is a really good thing. And I know it's not going to be the same for everyone because different strokes for different folks, but from my experience, content creators tend to burn out on the games they are covering way faster than the average player. So the fact that I'm 500 hours in, still plugging away at it, still doing different mixed sets and experimenting with armor skills and weapons and still having fun with it, I think is definitely a testament to the staying power of Monster Hunter Rise, despite all of the development problems that Capcom had with it due to the pandemic and the data theft that they had and all of that stuff. And on top of it, I believe next week we're going to be getting patch 3.0, which is going to be delivering even more content for us to sink our teeth into, and personally, I can't wait for it. Now, for a little bit of housekeeping, when I initially released my Monster Hunter Rise review, some of you guys have expressed a little bit of disappointment over the fact that you weren't going to get to see me struggle against the monsters for the very first time, because naturally I was playing it during embargo, so I couldn't live stream it. However, I did capture all of that playthrough, at least all of the relevant moments in the playthrough when, when you're facing off a monster for the first time. It's like I didn't really capture myself, beating the crap out of Basarios 10 times in a row because I don't think that's particularly relevant, but I did record my first time with every single monster, and then again for high rank and all of that stuff, I captured all of it. And I had been working on editing it all, and I've been slowly releasing it on my secondary channel. So in case you guys have been missing out on that, I would like to let you guys know that most of the episodes have been released by now. I believe that it is 26 episodes, and I believe that just today we released episode 24. So if you're one of the people that wanted to see my first reactions to all of the monsters in Monster Hunter Rise, all of that stuff is now available on my secondary channel. There will be a link in the description of this if you want to go check that stuff out. Now, another bit of news is that in regards to weapon guides, I'm done. And I know that some of you guys are going to go like, but Rurikon, you didn't cover all 14 weapons. You're right, I didn't. I had never intended to. For the reason being, like, I can really get into the mindset of a melee weapon and understand what the moveset is for that melee weapon and, like, what I think is the best way to utilize that melee weapon, and I can kind of present that in a way that a newcomer can look at it and be like, okay, so this weapon goes like this, then goes like that, and you guys can kind of, like, adapt from there. I don't think I need to be the best player with a longsword, for instance, in order to understand the mechanics of the longsword and teach that to a new player, because a lot of it is practice, muscle memory. I can tell right now, most of my things with the gun lance is mostly muscle memory and practice. It's not learning the mechanics of the gun lance, is about actually putting it into practice. Now, when it comes to the three weapons that I didn't do, which are the bow, light bowgun, and heavy bowgun, these are weapons that not only I am not particularly experienced with them, like I know how they work, but I think that the biggest thing about these weapons is about the ammunition types, which ammunition type to use when, and I just don't feel like spending time researching that because, quite simply, these three weapons do not interest me as much as the melee weapons. And I'm not saying that they're bad, I'm not saying that I don't like them, don't quote me out of context, please, with that stuff, because there's already a lot of people that take my longsword meme way too seriously. But then again, I'm going to keep playing into it, so too bad. But it's just one of those things. I feel like what I have to contribute to teaching people about bows and light bowguns and heavy bowguns is not really relevant. So therefore, I will not be doing guides for those weapons. Probably moving forward in future Monster Hunter releases, I'm probably not going to be doing guides for those weapons as well, because I just feel like I don't bring enough to the table when it comes to ranged weapons. So what you see right now is what you get, and then eventually if we get like new switch skills, maybe in the ultimate version or whatever, then I will update and I will do another version of the guides for the weapons that I've covered here, but no bow guns, no bows, none of that stuff. So I'm sorry if you were waiting to see that. Maybe check out Eric's, maybe he'll be covering it. Check out Famito, he does a lot of really good stuff with that. Check out Gaijin, which you will probably cover those as well, because I know that he likes the light bowgun quite a bit. So just letting you guys know what is up with that. So for the next couple of days, I'm probably going to be taking it easy because I've spent a lot of time creating a lot of content for Monster Hunter Rise. And even though I have a lot of ideas that I have for builds for each of the weapons that I've done guides for, they're probably not going to be relevant once 3.0 hits because it's probably going to be shaking up the meta again. So I don't feel like it's going to be right for me to just like, oh, I'm going to be working on a couple of builds for you guys this week, and then next week they're all outdated. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I'm probably going to be focusing some of my efforts streaming over on Twitch. There are some things that I want to check out that I've kind of been postponing on account of the fact that I've been working hardcore into Monster Hunter Rise, so I hope you guys will be curious to join me there and check out some of the stuff that I'm going to be seeing there. But yeah, just wanted to let you guys know all of that stuff that is happening, and this is actually extended way more than I intended. So let's get back to the main topic of the video. What makes Monster Hunter Rise my favorite Monster Hunter to date? And I think there's an interesting thing that Gaijin said in one of our podcasts, which was, your favorite Monster Hunter is the one you are playing right now, which I actually don't necessarily agree with that statement, particularly when I think back at the transition from Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate into Monster Hunter Generations. It's like, sure, I played Generations and I enjoyed playing Generations, but it didn't become my favorite Monster Hunter back then. Back then, 4U was definitely still way higher for me. As a matter of fact, I even did a video talking about this, how I believe that 4U was a better game than Generations. And I still believe that, even after Generations Ultimate. And I want you guys to understand, I love playing Generations Ultimate. I think it's a fantastic game, and at some point I'm probably still going to go back to it because I didn't do every single bit of content there was to do in Generations Ultimate. So I do believe that at some point I'll be going to it. But even when I was playing Generations Ultimate, I was like, man, for Ultimate though, 4 Ultimate was friggin' amazing. Like, the story of 4 Ultimate is still my favorite story in any Monster Hunter because it's such an amazing adventure that you go on, right? So I don't think it's necessarily the one that you are playing. At least that's not the case for me, but Rise is definitely the best one that I've played so far for my personal taste. And now I wanted to tell you why that is. And for starters, I think that this is a very big part of it, this game has the best iteration of the gun lance, which I think is definitely a contributing factor. Like, when a Monster Hunter game, you know, they do a good job of, you know, with your weapon, particularly in terms of how fun it makes your weapon to play. Not necessarily just in terms of power, because any weapon can be powerful, not every weapon can be fun. That's the thing. And gun lance is just like the funnest gun lance that I've ever played in Rise. And this is not an exaggeration, this is just straight up a fact. From all the gun lance iterations, and it's not just Blast Dash, because some people might think, oh, it's just a Blast Dash thing, right? No, Blast Dash is amazing, but there are other aspects of it. The way that they do Wyvern Fire with the guard point, the way that you can do fast worm stakes after certain move, the guard edge, like, everything about it. And even just the fact that Basil Goose's armor is the best armor for a gun lance, I'm just like, dude, this game is just tailor-made for me. And on top of it, the sword and shield is also fantastic, which is like my second favorite weapon. This iteration of sword and shield is also great. I don't know how it is in terms of like speed runs and whatnot, because I don't tend to pay that much attention to it, so I don't know how powerful the weapon actually is. But what I can tell you is that it is amazingly fun. Metsu Shoryugeki is hella fun. Windmill is also hella fun. Just like everything about the weapon's fantastic. I love the Spinning Reaper. I love everything about it, and I always have a blast when I'm playing Gun Lance or Sword and Shield. And I've enjoyed a lot of the other weapons as well. As a matter of fact, I might be doing like a video giving you guys my my tier list for the weapons now that I have 500 hours in the game. And if you guys are curious what my least favorite weapon is at this point, I think you guys will be surprised. Out of all of the weapons that I've played while I was doing the guides and all of that stuff, the weapon that I liked the least was the Lance. I don't like the changes that they did to the Lance. And if I was a Lance main, good God, I would be pretty pissed off. I'm not sure if this would be my favorite Monster Hunter to date if I was a Lance main. And this is as someone that really enjoyed the Lance and World. I thought the Lance and World was fantastic. And Rise, I personally don't like it. And again, it's not going to be the same for everyone. Some people will enjoy the Lance, but it is what it is. I think that most weapon movesets have seen amazing improvements to them. And this even includes the Lance, because again, it's like, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that there aren't people that do like it. And I've seen in the guide that a lot of people said, oh no, I love the sweep and whatnot. And I'm like, that's cool. I don't dig it. So I think that most weapons have seen a lot of improvements to their movesets, which is really, really good. I think that switch skills keep things fresh during your first playthrough. And even, you know, when you're min-maxing for different weapons that you haven't experimented with, I think switch skills is really cool to experiment around and play around with things and see the possibilities of what you can do with a weapon. But particularly for your first playthrough, I think it's a really important thing, even more important than I initially gave it credit to, because it was very refreshing for me to just keep experimenting with different playstyles of the gun lance as I was, going through that first playthrough. It definitely felt friggin' fantastic. And then we also have the fact that the Wirebug is quite simply a million times better than the Clutch Claw. Like, the Clutch Claw was fun, don't get me wrong. I loved clutching out the monsters, slamming them into walls, but basically that was something that you kind of had to do. And the way in which it worked, it was basically like a binary thing, which, like, is the monster like enraged? No, then slam it into a wall. Is it not enraged? Is it enraged? Then let's just, attack as normal. But you always had that thing, and not to mention you also had to do the whole weakening the parts thing in order to get more advantage out of weakness exploit, or just creating better hit zones for yourself, which I guess it seemed cool at the time, but after a while you're just like, oh my god, I'm forced to do this. It's very annoying. And at the same time, this Wirebug thing, I also think it makes us too powerful. So it's not just a positive. Like, I think it's a lot of fun doing Wirebugs, basically being Spider-Man as a hunter, but it also makes us way too powerful, in my opinion, to the point where I don't think the monsters have really caught up to our power levels yet. And I think that any experienced player will say the same thing. Now, people that are new to the game, like, it's going to be great for them because they're going to have they're going to have an easier time getting into the game and starting up with their favorite weapons and experimenting with different weapons and stuff like that. But for people that have played it before, after a while of you practicing, most monsters are just going to be going down like nobody's business, super fast. Like, some of the speedrun times that we've seen, I think, are completely ridiculous. And add that on top of it, the village was definitely too easy. The thing is, I've also heard reports from you guys, specifically whenever I mentioned that village is too easy, that you've had friends that have started playing the game for the first time and that they still cart in village and that they still struggle. So again, this is one of those things that's it's a double-edged sword. It makes this a very welcoming game. It allows players to really experiment with new weapons and play around with it. You don't have to spend as much time as I did in the training room because you can just go practice the weapon that you want to play on the village quest. It's just I'm looking for very specific combos, so But you can just go play the game instead of spending time in the training room, which I think is a good thing. But it is a double-edged sword because for veterans of the franchise, like, we just tore through the village like warm knife through butter. It was just legit warm knife through butter. You just go in there, slash that up. Now, there's also the new mode that was added, which was Rampages, and now that I've spent even more time playing Rampages, the conclusion that I've reached is that I like playing Rampages in multiplayer. I don't think Rampages are as fun when I'm in single player, but in multiplayer, I think they make for a fun activity to do in between hunts. Like, you're doing a bunch of hunts, you're grinding your materials, and you do a rampage here and there, and it feels great because it's a different game mode for you to play around with. Now, I get it that there's a lot of people that don't like it, but I'm definitely happy that they're experimenting with the formula and trying out new things. I'm curious to see if they're going to be trying to do something different from traditional hunting in future games as well. But I don't think that Rampage is a complete failed experiment. I do think that Rampages, very much like village quests, need to be harder. Because right now, again, 500 hours in, I've never failed a Rampage. Not a single one. I didn't fail Apex Rathalos the first time I did it, didn't fail Apex Diablos. And I'm not saying this is like some kind of achievement. I'm saying it's too easy. It is way too easy with the Rampages. If there's any complaints that I have with Rise, that is too easy. And I know that people are saying it's the base game, it doesn't have Master Rank and all of that stuff. And I get it, but I still want to be challenged in Rampage. Like, there were so many Rampages where I messed up terribly. Like, I performed so bad in some of these Rampages, and I didn't get punished for it. Not once. Not once did the game punish me for doing poorly. Like, your only punishment is like, okay, so your Rampage takes a little bit longer because you carded a bunch of times, so you spend a lot of time running back to the monster. So I do wish that, you know, there was a bit more challenge element there. But, you know, actually, let me know you guys how you feel about this in the comment section. Now, I also wanted to touch up on charms versus decorations as the RNG factor for Monster Hunter. Now, in Monster Hunter Rise, the RNG factor is obviously the charms. In Monster Hunter World, the RNG factor was the decorations. And I've actually seen quite a few people say that they preferred decorations as the RNG factor, which I find to be kind of weird. Personally, I think that RNG being back on charms is one of the best things that they could have done, because now you can just basically work towards your decorations, which actually reduces the amount of RNG required. And I know that a lot of people are going to be like, well, yeah, but now you need God rolls on charms. Yes, but charm is one slot of your armor versus like literally a bunch of different slots that you can have on different armor pieces. And on top of it, like in Monster Hunter World, the way that you would usually choose what you were hunting after you were, you know, at endgame, you'd be going like, okay, I need a tier 2 or tier 3 tempered investigation so that I can go fight a monster and have a good chance of getting decorations. Which one of these quests that I've got is the one that's got the most purple boxes so that I can have the best chance at getting good decorations? Then you would go, you would do that hunt, and at the end of the hunt, you're like, oh my god, I'm disappointed I didn't get the decoration I want. Everything sucks. I hate this. Whereas in Monster Hunter Rise, with the RNG being back on charms, for starters, one of the things that I love is that you don't have to actively hunt for charms. The charms is just something that you do passively. You basically sink a bunch of monster materials into the melding pot, and, you know, every so often you go back and you check in on it, and there are your charms. So you're not actively grinding charms. I know that some players went ahead and they started like, oh no, we got to farm the final boss because this is the most efficient way to get materials that are worth the most points to get the charms. It was like, hey, you want to optimize it to that degree? That's on you. But the way that I did it was like, oh, I can just choose which monsters I want to hunt, so I can work towards either crafting decorations, or I can work towards crafting a new armor set, a new weapon. You can actually set goals for yourself for the things that you want to craft, and the charms just get like, you know, you just keep getting them along the way. You're not actively working towards the charms. You're not picking the hunts that you are doing based around this RNG factor of you being able to get a decoration, which to me feels way better. Like, I don't even worry that much about charms. Like, all you really need, to be honest, for most of the builds that I do anyway, what you need is a charm that has like 2 tier 2 slots. That's all you need. And you can easily get one of those. Like, just, you know, start doing the charm grind and eventually you get it. It's not really that hard at this point. Everybody should have at least one charm with 2 tier 2 slots. Okay, and possibly even some bonus skills in there as well. Now, there are god rolls, but you don't need them to complete builds, whereas previously, if you wanted to complete some of my builds, I'd be like, well, I hope you got like at least 2 critical boost decos. I hope you got some weakness exploit decos. Well, weakness exploit were actually fairly easy to get, but like, hey, you got 2 attack decos? Yeah, right. Yeah, back in base Monster Hunter World? Yeah, right, you got 2 attack decos. Well, actually you did after they put in the Witcher event, because they give you one for free, and then they gave you another one for completing all of the requirements in the Witcher event. But still, you know, getting more than those 2, good luck with that. You know, it's all completely random. Not to mention how long I went without getting a friggin' guard up deco. It was insane. Like on PC, I could not get a guard up deco to save my life. I couldn't even play Gunlands on PC because I didn't have a friggin' guard up deco. It was crazy. So, you know, the RNG being on charms, if you really think about it, I think is a much better solution. So again, just like everything about Rise, I personally prefer Overworld. The one thing that I would have liked to have, obviously that didn't happen, was for it to be on all platforms. Because, you know, a lot of people seem to think that just because I play Rise that I'm like, oh, Rurikhan, you just supporting exclusivity. It's like, no, I'm just like, I'm going to play the things that I'm going to enjoy, and it is what it is. I don't necessarily, I'm not going to be that guy that's going to be like, oh, I'm so happy that I'm the only one that gets to play the game. That's actually bad for me. That's bad for everyone as far as I'm concerned. I prefer it if everybody could play every game. That's always been my stance. So that would be something that I would have liked. But ultimately, I think also people tend to forget that, because I've seen a lot of people say, oh, but back in Monster Hunter World, the gaming community was united. Everybody had access to the game. No. The Switch didn't have access to the game. What do you mean? Anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is that the charm of Kimura hasn't really faded at all. I still hum along to the tunes. I think that the monsters that returned have improved movesets. And the first monster that I carted to was friggin' Baroth, for crying out loud. That was my first cart in Monster Hunter Rise, was a Baroth. Just trampled me over because he did the teacup attack like 4 times in a row, which is insane. Not to mention that I feel like they've learned quite a bit from Monster Hunter World, because with 2.0 they just added full layered armor. It's like the whole shebang. They didn't like piecemeal it like they did with World. They're like, no, here you go. Just have the whole thing. Like, can you craft it? Then you can craft it layered. Just have a blast. And I thought that was pretty cool. I think they've done a fantastic job with Monster Hunter Rise. It is definitely my current favorite Monster Hunter. There's obviously the potential for the next Monster Hunter launch, that whatever's going to come after Monster Hunter Rise Ultimate, that could potentially overtake this. I don't know. But right now, it is very easy for me to say. 500 hours later, I still love this game. I still play this game every day, and I still will. Now do remember, I'm going to be streaming on Twitch, so if you guys want to hang out there, make sure to follow me on there. And yeah. Like I said, for the next couple of days, I'm probably going to be taking it easy. I'm going to be probably streaming some stuff over on Twitch, just hanging out and whatnot. So make sure to follow me on there. And I will still do the podcast, though. So, you know, every Tuesday night, I'm probably going to be recording with Gaijin, and we'll be releasing the podcast on Wednesday, even though I'm considering delaying it next week because, you know, we're probably going to be getting the update at some point, and I would only want to do the podcast after we get the update because otherwise it wouldn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I love all of you. Thank you all very much for the support that you've shown me over these past couple of months. You guys are amazing. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.